So if you've ever walked away from a conversation feeling, I don't know, just completely drained.
Oh, absolutely. Or, on the flip side, totally exhilarated.
Right. Because you actually learn something new about yourself, maybe.
Yeah.
And that shows that communication is, well, it's so much more than just exchanging information.
It's an act of construction.
It is an act of construction.
Uh-huh.
And today, we are doing a very deep dive into that exact truth. We've got this really extraordinary reflective source. It's a German text, Wie kommunizieren.
How do we communicate?
Exactly. And it asks that fundamental question, how do we do this thing? And, why is it often so messy?
And it becomes clear, like right from the first page, this is not a grammar textbook.
Yeah.
We're looking at communication as a fundamental practice art. The source calls it the highest form of human practice, really.
The art of what, though? How does it define that?
It's the process for understanding the pictures we have seen within us.
So we're moving past just the mechanics of speech and into the philosophy behind it.
And when the text talks about speaking about us, it's not just a casual choice of words.
Right.
It emphasizes that this collective idea is far more than just mine and yours. It's about acknowledging a shared reality.
That's the critical shift, isn't it?
It is. We immediately move beyond just, subjective feelings or the individual ego.
And we're supposed to embrace what?
Plural considerations.
Yeah.
The very possibilities of perception and knowledge. It's about using language as a tool to get to a shared consciousness.
So our mission today is to unpack the essential demands and, I guess, the results of this kind of authentic interaction. We're pulling it all straight from the source.
Okay, let's unpack this.
I want to start with that foundational why. Why does the source treat the simple act of talking as something so critical, almost existential?
Well, because the stakes are nothing less than the integration of sociality itself.
Sociality.
Yeah. Communication is defined as the main way we exchange thoughts. It's a process of reciprocal action, a constant give and take that actually shapes and designs our lives.
So it's the glue holding society together.
It's the glue, and it's also the mirror that lets us see ourselves.
Okay, that's interesting. This idea of self-constitution.
It's probably the deepest insight in this first part.
Yeah.
The text argues that we build our self-perception not just for ourselves, like in our own heads,
But how then?
only in interaction with other living beings. It's through what the source calls the coexistent feeling of others.
Wait, hold on. So are you saying the text is arguing I can't really know myself without you?
Essentially, yes. Think about it. Your idea of yourself as a smart person, a kind friend, whatever, it's constantly being reinforced or, modified by the reactions you get from people around you.
These resonating life subjects, as it calls them.
Exactly. We use others as a vital mirror. And if that communication fails,
Mirror shatters.
and so does our stable sense of self.
Wow. That puts an incredible amount of weight on every single interaction. So if this process is so fundamental, what drives it? What's the engine that keeps us trying to connect?
The engine is identified very clearly as the will to mediate.
The will to mediate.
It's that internal, almost necessary drive to bridge the gap between your world and someone else's.
And what happens when that will is absent? Because we've all been in conversations where it feels like the other person just wants to score a point.
That's precisely why communication fails.
Mm.
When you replace the will to mediate with, say, the will to win,
Or the will to judge.
the connection just short circuits. And the text connects this drive to all of human history. It says, history is history in communication, and that without being able to deny it.
So if we stop trying to mediate, our collective progress just stalls.
Fundamentally stalls.
That makes the stakes feel almost cosmic. If communication drives history and shapes our identity, we have to treat it like an art form.
One that requires real skill and intention.
So let's talk about that. Let's frame this next part around success. How does this art of reciprocal giving and taking actually work in practice?
Here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
To succeed, we have to connect our inner world.
Our subjective thoughts and feelings.
Yes. We have to connect that with what the text calls the co-world, the shared space.
That sounds like a huge challenge. I mean, how do you bridge that chasm between my own private thoughts and our shared reality?
Well, it requires a quality of influence that actually transcends the personal boundaries of each person.
It's asking us to step outside of our own ego for a minute.
That's it. Exactly. Not to sacrifice your view, but to allow someone else's reality into your own space to really consider it.
I see. So this transcendence, it's not just a nice feeling, it has a real effect.
A tangible one. It shows up as a shared interconnectedness within the whole of society.
And that interconnectedness is a sign of our collective maturity.
Precisely. We can't mature as a society if we can't get past those personal boundaries in conversation. It's a symbiotic relationship.
How so?
Communication brings forth development, and development is mediated through communication. They are, in a sense, the same process.
So spiritual growth and material growth are sort of two sides of the same coin, and language is the thing that flips it.
You could say that. They're seen as one process. And the text gives a pretty stark warning about what happens when we refuse to do that, when we just retreat into our own shells.
Right, the danger of one-sidedness.
Exactly. It says one-sidedness is multi-sidedly incomplete and not viable in the long run.
It's just not sustainable.
It's not. So our shared task has to be overcoming that isolation, the silos we put ourselves in, and creating spaces for a plural existence.
The goal isn't just tolerance, then. It's
the creation of a collective consciousness, built piece by piece through real communication.
that sets an incredibly high bar for what we think of as just a casual chat. It's like we're working on something huge every time we open our mouths. So let's get practical. Let's shift from the philosophy to the principles. What specific attitudes, what actions define healthy communication?
The absolute foundation is the will to acknowledge.
Okay, what does that mean?
If you don't acknowledge the other person as a valid, worthwhile source of insight, the whole thing is dead on arrival.
And that has to translate into actual behaviors.
It does. First, what to avoid: dogmatism and manipulation. The communication has to be understanding-oriented and dialogue-open.
So an active stance of curiosity, not judgment.
Yes. And it has to be ethically demanding, too. There's a list of things to just rule out entirely.
What's on the list?
It must be anti-repressive and non-elitist. And crucially, you have to act without the tendency to discriminate, scorn, deceive, or disinform.
It forces you to check your motives before you even speak.
Are you here to share, or are you here to feel superior?
That's a tough internal audit. So beyond avoiding those negatives, what does the positive engagement look like?
It demands full participation, listening fully, participating in a meaningful way, and being ready to learn.
Learn bright, ready to learn.
You have to be interaction-friendly and non-generalizing. Avoid lumping people or complex ideas into simple boxes.
Okay, but what about conflict? If we're so focused on acknowledging and understanding, do we just agree to disagree all the time to keep the peace?
No. And this is the beautiful nuance in the source. It advises not shying away from conflict, but also not holding on to it.
So the conflict itself isn't the problem.
The conflict isn't the enemy. The toxic part is the absolute will to be right.
The will erecta barai.
That's the compulsion to win the argument, even if it destroys any chance of mutual understanding.
That makes perfect sense. The goal is depth, not victory. But here's the skeptical question. If I have to abandon my will to be right, do I just let bad ideas slide?
A critical question. And the text provides the balance. It says, we must not be without the willingness to contradict.
When?
When opinions slide into problematic, false insights. You challenge the idea because you care about truth, but you do it without the ego-driven need to win.
So you have to decouple your identity from your argument.
Yes. Be ready to defend a rational point, but also be ready to have your own view changed, all in the same conversation.
The most effective dialogue is a synthesis, then.
A combination of the will for rational communication with the will for a creative discussion and understanding situation.
Rationality is the compass. Creativity is the sails.
I like that.
So that combination is what makes it transformative. Let's focus on those outcomes. What do we gain, like in the moment, from this kind of communication?
The immediate gain is learning something new. The text is very clear that in every intensive communication moment, knowledge is transferred, insight happens.
And to support that learning, the text describes this very specific relational need. It's almost architectural.
Yes, it says we need proximity that does not crush and distance that does not alienate or neglect.
That's the blueprint for a healthy connection, isn't it?
It's the foundation. Be close enough to influence and be influenced, but not so close that you smother each other.
I think we can all think of relationships that suffered from one or the other. Too much crushing proximity or too much alienating distance.
Absolutely. And when you get that balance right, the positive goals start to follow naturally.
Which are?
We develop our self-reliant and our shared thinking. And the ultimate goal is to practice an unforced togetherness in the spirit of love and truth.
So language is a vehicle for deep existential action. We use it to share, analyze, accumulate knowledge, and even to heal.
And we intentionally choose our words to bind something thought to words. That care, that intentionality, is the whole game.
And that has a lasting cumulative impact.
It's absolutely cumulative. The text concludes by saying, linguistic action shapes our entire lives. The energy we put into it changes and designs our reality.
It strengthens good transformations, gets rid of stale ideas.
And preserves what's good.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the result of all this hard work is a kind of slow refinement process.
Where, over time, the bad falls away.
It's an evolutionary self-healing process, all guided by deliberate, empathetic speech.
It's a remarkable vision for what we can achieve every single time we choose to talk to someone.
So, what does this all mean? Our deep dive brings us right back to those open questions from the start. How do we want to communicate? For what purpose? What are we really trying to do?
What do we want to achieve for ourselves and for everyone else?
The source material leaves us with this beautiful analogy of a listening tree.
What does the tree say?
It says that human freedom is the chance to be exactly as you want to be, and that balance, the very thing communication is seeking, works in harmony with natural order, beauty, and art.
So authentic dialogue is that natural balancing act.
A challenging one, but a natural one.
And the final piece of wisdom from the source suggests that consciousness, patience, care, and love can easily transform our spoiled drives. So here's the final thought for you to take away. What specific spoiled drive, like that will to always be right or that tendency to be one-sided, could you transform today just through a simple act of intentional, non-manipulative listening? Think about that.